Very good morning to everyone. In this lecture, EC8791 Embedded and Real-Time Systems, Unit 5, the operating system, processing and operating system. In, in previous session, we have discussed the introduction of multiple tasks and multiple processing. Now today, we are going to discuss the multi-rate systems. In operating system, implementing code for satisfy the timing requirements is more complex when multiple rate of computation must be handled. Here the multi-rate embedded computing system example of automobile engines, printers and cell phones. In all of these, the certain operations must be executed periodically with its own rate. So here the automatic engine system is a engine controller and a spark plug systems were there. The simplest automobile engine controller, the controller for a basic motorcycle engine, it perform only a one task, timing the spring of spark pulse which takes the place of mechanical distributor. Spark pulse must be fired at a certain point in the cycle. In the microcontroller, it sends the engine position, allows the spark timing to vary with the engine speed. So firing the spark plug is periodic process. Then the engine controller, it is a automobile engine controller, use additional sensors including gas pedal position and an oxygen sensor used to control the emissions. They are also use a multi-mode control scheme. One mode may be used for engine warm up, another for cushion, another for clipping step skills. The engine controller take a variety of input that determine the state of the engine. It then control two basic engine parameters: the spark pulse spring and the fuel air mixture. Then the task performed by the engine controller, we can see the task performance is a variable parameters. There is a engine spark timing, there is a time to move full range and update periods is 300 and update the period of millisecond to millisecond, and the battery voltage and fuel rate and the air temperature and barometric pressure and also the mode actuators. So all of these ranges become to use the parameters. So the processor can have several different type of timing requirement based on the application. The timing requirements on set of process strongly depends on the type of scheduling. A scheduling policy must define the timing requirement that used to determine whether a schedule is valid. So the real time, what is the real time? The real time at which the process become ready to execute. Or what is the simple system? The simple system, the process may become ready at the beginning of the period. What is a sophisticated system? The set of real release time at the arrival time of certain data at a time after the start of the period. Then what is a deadline? It is specified when a computation must be finished. The deadline for a periodic process is generally measured from the release time or initiative time. The deadline for a periodic process may occur at the end of the period. So the period of the process is the time between the successive executions. The process rate is the inverse of the period in a multi-rate system. Each process executes at its own rate. That is, we have to example of definition of release time and deadline. In this case, the initial level is equal to 1/4 of the period. It is possible for a process to have an initiation rate less than the period even in the single CPU system. If the process execution time is less than the period, it may be possible to initiate the multiple copies of program at slightly offset the time. Then the data dependency among the process, the data dependency define a particular partial ordering on the process execution and execute in any order in but both complete. So the all process must finish before the end of the period. So we can using the directed cyclic graph DAC. It is a directed graph that contains no cycles. The data dependency must from a directed cyclic graph and a set of process with a data dependency is known as a task graph. And what is the communication among the purpose? Communication among process at a different rate. That is a communication in between the audio or video MPEG of JPEG files. The system decoder process demultiplexing the audio and video data and distribute it to appropriate process. And then the missing deadline. What is the missing deadline? In a multimedia system may cause a audio or video glitches. So the system can designed to take variety of actions when a deadline is missed. Now what are the CPU metrics? Here the CPU metrics are described by initiation time and completion time. The initiation time is nothing but the time at which a process actually start executing on a CPU. And what is the completion time? The time at which the process finish its work. So the CPU time of process I is called CI, that is a CPU initiative time. So the time is not equal to completion time, initiation time. So the total CPU time is equal to summation into Ti, a set of processes is called CPU metrics. So the simplest and most direct measure in utilization U is equal to CPU time for useful work divided by total available CPU work. Next one is process state and scheduling. Here the first job of the operating system is to determine the process run next. The work of the choosing the order of running process, it is known as scheduling. Therefore, there are three basic scheduling such as waiting and ready and executing. It is a interfere to one by one. So it is ready the function choose the run operation and execute operation is interfaced with the wait and start the execution. So what are the scheduling policies? A scheduling policies how the process are selected for promotion from the ready state the running state. So the scheduling allocate the time for execution of the process in a system for periodic process. The length of the time that must be considered it is hyper period, which is the least common multiple of the period of the process. Unrolled schedule the complete schedule for least common multiple of the period. Then what are the type of scheduling? The cyclostic scheduling or time division multiple access scheduling are there. So in this scheduling is divided into equal size time slot over a interval equal to the length of the hyper period H. So there are the two factors affect this scheduling. Number one, the number of time slot is used here affect the scheduling process, and the fraction of each time slot that are used to useful the work. So these are the multi-rate system and pre-emphasis in real-time systems. Thank you for watching this video.